Now, this is the part that I'm actually excited for. And guys, if you haven't been following Kim on Kimberly Dixon on Facebook, you've really been missing a treat because she's been sharing little nuggets of the book. And I realized why you don't see me as a view. Because my phone is set up, it'll just start, when I look at it, it'll just start playing it. But I don't click in it. If I click in it, you'll see me as a view. So I've been there. I'm like, why don't it say two people? I'm there. Right. So I've been there, and there are a lot of great parts in there, and I share with you the part that touched me the most. So y'all are in for a real treat. Y'all in for a real treat, so I'm going to turn it back over to you. You have about 30 minutes to share whatever you want to share from your book.
Okay. It's 30 minutes. I don't know if I'm going to read that long.
Well, that's what you get. This time you're allotted for. It's your day. Tell me what you want me to do.
So I'm going to spend a few minutes reading just a little bit from each chapter today. And first, guys, I really want to thank you all for coming out today. I'm not going to cry. This is such an honor and a privilege to have all of you here with me today. I don't take this lightly. And I love all y'all. So I am going to read a little bit from each chapter. I'll tell you the name of the chapter that I'm reading from. And then we're going to eat and have some cake and some punch while I'm signing books. So I'm going to start out by reading just a little bit of the introduction. Have you ever felt like you were broken? Some childhood trauma, physical ailment, or abuse left you feeling like you were shattered into a million pieces. I spent most of my life feeling broken, empty, and forgotten. Simply shattered. Outwardly, I look like the average 47-year-old. I look good, I'm educated, and I'm independent. I seem to have it all together. For so many years, I've been struggling on the inside. Many people struggle with something from the past, but they bury it with the hopes that it will go away. Let me assure you, it will not just go away. And the acknowledgments, I'd like to give glory and honor to God for his guidance and eternal love. Thank you, God, for choosing me. And I worded that way because, you know, in the word it tells us that I knew you before you were formed. So I knew this journey, every piece of it, even the bitter and the hard pieces of it, was ordained from the beginning so that I could be here today to do the job that he has for me to do. So that means that I was chosen. Before any parent ever knew I had been conceived, I had already been set apart. So I'd like to thank my parents for their support while writing this book. I'd like to thank my siblings, Floyd and Valerie, that are on the front row, and my brother Malcolm. He couldn't be here today. His wife's grandmother passed away. That you were my first friends, my protectors, and my tormentors. Thank you for everything I've done. And thank you to Keisha Mitchell and Rosalind Thomason for coming to my rescue after many surgeries and for being two of the best friends a lady could ask for. You ladies rock. To my editor, Kimberly Hines Winborn, thank you for pouring over these pages time and time again. I could not have done it without you. And thank you for Ernest L. Thomas for your friendship and support. Your humility and kindness are unparalleled. I am honored to call you friend. So chapter 1, it's called Born Broken. I'm not reading all these little tabs. I'm using them to keep my place, but it's not working. Okay. When I was first born, I looked like the typical chubby chocolate baby. When I started pulling up on furniture, it became evident to everyone that my legs were very bowed. In the beginning, it wasn't really a big deal. Many people on both sides of my family had some degree of bowing. My Uncle Panky on my dad's side and my Uncle Ed on my mom's side were very bow-legged. All of my siblings had bow legs. My two brothers grew out of it as babies, as most babies do. My sister wore leg braces that corrected hers. Naturally, everyone thought my path would be similar. It was not. Nobody's legs were bowed to the extent that mine were. I don't think anyone realized then how much this would come to affect my life. The more I tried to learn to walk, the more obvious it became that my bow legs were causing a real problem. I couldn't take more than a few steps without falling. No matter how many attempts I made, I kept falling. Around the age of 2, I began wearing leg braces to straighten my legs. By this point, it was clear I wasn't going to grow out of it, and I still couldn't walk without falling countless times. I ate a lot of dirt. The braces did not work at all. I wore them for about a year, but my legs were as bowed as ever. As I grew, the bowing got worse. When I was about 3, the doctors decided to put both my legs in straight leg casts. The cast went from the tip of my toes to the tops of my thighs. I hated those casts. This worked at home. I promise y'all it did. Okay. I had it all set up and planned. This was going to work out perfectly. So I'm going to actually read you the story about a little bit of what I talked about just now. That summer, the boys from the neighborhood came over to visit my brothers, and we all played Monopoly together. We spent hours every day over the summer playing games. We had so much fun. When we weren't playing Monopoly, we played football in the front yard. The football teams were 2-person teams with one brother and one sister on each team. My oldest brother played Little League football, so we split one uniform between 4 people. I learned how to throw and catch a football playing with my siblings. We played official football, so I learned the rules. We had the most fun. I remember running the ball and being pursued. I also remember being knocked down and running touchdowns. No tag football. We played tackle football. We were playing that game for real. We were serious. My siblings and I had the best time together. Then one day it was over just like that. My sister and I thought my brothers went to stay with my dad for the weekend. At least that's what we were told. They never came home. We kept asking when they were coming back. We finally stopped asking when school started and they hadn't returned. No one told us they had moved in with my dad permanently. We came to that realization on our own. In less than a year's time, I lost every male I knew. My fathers and brothers were gone. They were some of the most important people in my life. They were my protectors, my teachers, and sometimes my tormentors. My sister and I were crushed. Sure, they still lived in the same small town as us, but we rarely saw each other. My middle brother, Malcolm, is 2 years older than me, so when I got to middle school, I would see him in the hall. By that time, we had been separated a year. We were like strangers. We said hello to each other, but there was this awkward silence between us. He didn't know what to say, and I certainly didn't. Our life together was over. I felt sad when I saw him. I wanted my life back. I wanted my brothers back. We never lived in the same household together again. I rarely saw, I'm sorry y'all, but my contacts are out of focus. That's what crying will do for you. I rarely saw my oldest brother. He's almost 4 years older than me, so we were never at the same school together. During the summers, my sister and I went to stay with my dad and brothers. We'd ride go-karts, play in cornfields, and get into all types of mischiefs, just as we had before. My dad sometimes took us to the lake. I couldn't swim, but my brother Malcolm could. He let me hang onto his neck as he swam. I giggled and laughed as I clung to him. I don't know how he was able to swim with me on his back, but he did. I loved it. Let me try to get my contacts in focus so I can see these words. Sorry, y'all. That's a good thing I done read this 1,000 times because I know what it says. Chapter 2, God, why do you hate me so much? My parents sent my siblings and I to Sunday school as kids, so I knew who God was, but I was really confused. I learned in Sunday school how Jesus loves all the little children of the world, but he didn't seem to love me at all. I had all, I can't read that because I can't see it.
You need help? You need drops and what?
Okay, pain and pressure. I don't have any of my drops with me. Pain and pressure. While chaos swirled around my home life, a new problem came to surface. My knees started to hurt when I was in middle school. As a young child, I'd had 2 surgeries to correct my bow legs. I didn't understand why my knees were hurting. I first noticed the pain standing in the outfield playing softball. My knees hurt so badly. I swayed back and forth standing in the hot sun. To spectators, it appeared as if I was ready for the ball to come soaring my way. In actuality, I swayed to relieve the pain and pressure in my knees. X-rays revealed I had arthritis in both knees. I didn't understand why I had arthritis in my knees. I had problems with my legs, right? Turns out the bowed legs aren't really bowed legs. The leg appeared bowed because of a misalignment in the knee in most cases. That misalignment put undue stress on the joints, hence the early development of arthritis. I was embarrassed to have arthritis as a 12-year-old. Old people get arthritis. As a teen, I shied away from my friends even more. I didn't want them to know how much pain I was in. By the end of the school day, on most days, my knees hurt. I stopped playing softball because of the pain. That was the start of 33 years of progressively worsening pain. Dreams about real events. As a teen, I started having dreams. I wasn't having the ordinary type of dreams. I started having dreams about real events before the events happened. The first time I had a dream about an actual event, I thought I was losing my mind. I think I was in the 8th or 9th grade. I don't remember the exact grade I was in, but I remember I was in home economics class when I learned my dream was about a real event. I still remember that dream clearly. My sister Valerie, my cousin Tracy, and I were at a funeral of my stepdad's mother's neighbor, Margaret. The funeral went as most funerals go. We were at Perry and Spencer Funeral Home. Perry and Spencer is the black funeral home in our small town. They handled almost everyone's services. The funeral home was full of mourners. The 3 of us sat about midway back on the left side of the pews. During the middle of the service, Margaret sat up in the casket and said, "I'm not dead, y'all. I'm just hurt bad." Mourners screamed and yelled as we clamored to get out of that building and away from Margaret. The 3 of us got into our car. Val was driving and I got on the passenger side. Margaret ran up to the window and yelled, "I'm not dead!" When she raised her arm to bang on the glass, her entire forearm was bandaged. I woke up from the dream thinking, what was that crazy mess about? I didn't think anything about it until a few days later. We were in class when I heard Mackenzie ask another girl, "Did you hear about what happened to Margaret?" Immediately, my ears perked up. Mackenzie went on to say, "Margaret got burned yesterday. A press at work fell on her arm and almost burned it to the bone." I immediately remembered that dream I'd had days earlier. I wanted to run, screaming and yelling from the classroom. I thought, this can't be right, can it? How is it possible to dream about her arm being bandaged before she burned her arm? I tried to figure out how I could have known, but there was no logical explanation. I had that dream days before she was burned. There was no way I could have known. I didn't know her that well. Like I mentioned, she was my stepdad's mother's neighbor. I had seen her maybe twice in my life. I didn't know that woman. I didn't tell anyone about that dream until years later. I didn't want people thinking I was crazy. I was quiet in school and I didn't talk much because I had so many secrets. I had arthritis, my home life was completely dysfunctional, and I had dreams about real events. I envision scenes from the movie Carrie with kids making fun of me. Okay, in all honesty, I was never in any danger that kids would pick on me. My last name is Dixon. Dixon's had a reputation for being mean, and I had several first cousins in the same grade as me. Everybody knew we were close-knit. Mess with one, mess with all. No one messed with any of us. I didn't fight in school because I didn't have to. Boys always told me I was mean. I didn't say anything to dispute them. It was good they thought I was mean, so that they would leave me alone. Even the mean girls in school were nice to me. Chapter 3, from 4 to 45. Jay, how am I running on my time?
Oh, you're doing great with time.
Okay. So I'm going to read to you from totally I had 11 surgeries. But I'm not going to read from all 11. I'm like, Kim, we ain't got that kind of time, honey. But I'm going to read a little bit from the second surgery and then a little bit from my last surgery. The surgery at 4 was a temporary fix. The doctors told my parents that my legs would eventually bow back out because I was still growing, and they did. My second surgery was at 10 years old. I was in the 5th grade. My surgeon was Dr. Gary Coleman. I like telling people my surgeon's name because Different Strokes was my favorite TV show, and Gary Coleman was Arnold's real name. Arnold was my favorite character from the show. Every week we watched Different Strokes followed by the Facts of Life. I sang the theme song loudly when they came on. I loved both shows. I spent 5 days in the hospital. Only the right leg was operated on this time. When I was 4 years old, they did both legs at the same time. The bowing was much worse in the right leg, and the doctors felt it was best to wait to do the left. The only thing I remember about that surgery was when I woke up after it was over, and I had the most intense pain in my right heel. It was the worst pain I'd ever felt. I didn't know how long the surgery lasted, but apparently the pain was due to me lying on my back for so long. The cast on my leg was huge. It covered my entire leg, just like the cast it had at 3 years old. Only this time it wasn't a straight leg cast. It had a bend at the knee. That cast was so heavy. Standing up was almost impossible. In physical therapy in the hospital, when the therapist helped me out of the wheelchair, I immediately began to tip over. I was in the hospital for 5 days, and I still couldn't walk on crutches with that cast. I went home with a walker. Let me assure you, no 10-year-old wants to use a walker. However, it was the only way I could walk. I finally learned to balance that cast and started using crutches when I got home. That was my first experience with a walker, but it wasn't my last. Walking on crutches was excruciatingly painful. I don't know if they were up too high or what, but the crutches made the pits of my arms hurt so horribly. The skin was often tender and on the verge of getting raw. My mom wrapped the crutches with towels as everyone suggested, but it didn't help. I knew the leg was healing when it started to itch. I used everything I could find to stick down inside the cast to scratch my leg. Nothing worked, not even an unfolded metal coat hanger. The surgery site was on the front of my leg, down below the knee. My knee was bent, and I couldn't get anything to maneuver over that curve. I wore that cast from December 1980 until around April 1981. I was so excited to finally get rid of the crutches and that heavy cast. My joy was short-lived. The day the cast was removed, I was excited. The circular saw whirled around as my doctor cut down both sides of the cast. It actually tickled as he did it. The cast was thick enough and had enough cotton-like batting inside that the blade never got close to my skin. Anxiously, I sat as he pulled the top piece off and then the bottom. My leg was stiff. I could already tell. My right leg hadn't been moved in months. Slowly, all the cotton and gauze was removed from the surgery site. I sat there in stunned disbelief. The front of my leg looked like it had been through a meat cleaver. The incision was wide and jagged. The fleshy part of my leg that was normally on the side or back of the calf looked like it was on top of mine. It looked like that surgery was done with a broken piece of glass instead of a scalpel. I couldn't say anything. I was in such shock. And I was mad. I thought maybe it was just swollen and the hump would go down. It didn't. just to pause a little bit, even now when I see a new orthopedist or any kind of doctor and they see that scar on the front of my leg, they always think that it was a result of an accident where I was in a car accident and something tore it. But when I tell them that was a surgery, they always get real quiet and they're like, oh. Like, cause they're not going to talk about another doctor, but I was like, when the first time a doctor did that, I was like, that's my confirmation. I was not crazy. I showed up on December the 29th, 2015, giddy and excited. Val and Keisha can tell you, I was dancing around. I was so excited, I almost danced around in the waiting room. I couldn't sit down. I talked and laughed with my sister and Keisha. Keisha would be my in-hospital and at-home nurse again. This was it. This was the last surgery. My entire life, there had always been another surgery for the future. Left knee replacement was my last surgery. Sure, in 20 or 25 years, I might have to get the replacements replaced, but for all intents and purposes, this was the last one. Having a straight right leg for the first time in my life still felt foreign. My leg had been straight for 9 months, and I still wasn't accustomed to it. When I looked down, I was always surprised to see it. I still expected to see my bowed right leg. It still amazed me that knee replacement corrected my bowed leg. After surgery on December the 29th, 2015, I would have 2 completely straight legs for the first time in my life. That was a long journey, but God been with me every step of the way. That moment seemed surreal. It was almost scary. Who would I be if I wasn't bow-legged anymore? That was my signature. People recognized me, my walk even more than my face, especially at a distance. I knew to not ever commit a crime. Witnesses would recognize me instantly. Not because of my face or any tattoos, but because of my side-to-side labored walk. I didn't really know who I would become or what life would be like, but I was ready to find out who Kimberly Dixon was. I saw glimpses of her throughout the years, but I knew the real me was yet to emerge. I'm sorry, I'm so silly, y'all. But I like to have fun. And joy is one of my signatures. Let me pause there just a minute. And my dear friend and I had a conversation with Miss Cynthia White. She called me earlier this week. And just to check on me to make sure that I'm doing well and in the right place spiritually, because this is a big event. And she asked me what I was wearing. And I was like, I'm wearing a yellow dress. And she said, you know, yellow represents joy. And I laughed, I giggled. I was like, I didn't know that, but it's perfect. I was like, even God planned this. Like, because the name of my business is Joyful Living, and people know me because of the joy that I exude. So I'm wearing a yellow dress today because I am joyful. Truly, from every ounce of my being, joy, it's me. Yes. So, yes, I am joyful and happy. So now we're going to read a little bit from chapter 4 that's entitled, God Help Me. Lying on the bed that day, I knew I was in a dangerous place. I'd never been afraid to die. Death to me always felt like there would be peace. I wasn't planning my death, but I didn't want to be here. I didn't want to slit my wrist or shoot myself, but I didn't want to be here. That's a dangerous place. I knew feeling that way could lead to me doing something I couldn't take back. I was scared for me. I began to talk out loud to God. God, if you ever heard me, please help me. I whispered many prayers over the years. They all seemed to go unanswered. I needed help, and I had nowhere to turn but God. Turns out, that's what God was waiting on all along. After what seemed like forever, he started to talk. He shook as he began to tell me the story of how he started dreaming about a young woman he didn't know, but that God was sending him to save her. He talked about the great sadness that surrounded me. What he said next made me burst into tears. He said, God wants you to know that he heard you every time you prayed. Kimberly, God's been with you all the time. You just didn't feel him. He wants you to know that you have favor. You have gifts. They don't seem like gifts to you, but you are highly favored and gifted. He talked for almost 2 hours without me saying a word. I just cried. I alternated between a soft sob and an ugly cry. He repeated words to me that I'd never spoken to another living soul. He knew how I begged God to forgive me in my prayers at night. There was no way he should have known anything about me. I didn't know that man, but he knew me intimately. Blow by blow, he recounted some of his dreams about me that were real life events. He talked about the bedwetting, the crushing loneliness I felt, and how I didn't want to be here anymore. He even said, you just want to walk away and never look back. He was right. He cried as he talked about the conversation he had with his wife about me. They didn't know me, and they didn't know my name, but they had started praying for me every day since he started dreaming about me months earlier. I was in shock. Chapter 5, Joy is My Medicine. After my road to Damascus experience, I wanted to walk off into the sunset with God. He was with me and I was with him. I prayed. I'm sorry. This is funny to me. It's still funny to me. I prayed for him to show me how to love him better. I just wanted to be with him. His response was, you can't love me if you don't love my people. Come on, God. Man, I don't even like people. I replied, I felt everyone I knew left or hurt me. How can I love people? God said, I will show you. I said, okay, if you say so. I had quotes and words posted everywhere. I put them on my bathroom mirror. I read them every time I went into the bathroom. I posted them on my computer monitor at work. I read them throughout the day. Days when people and the micromanagers in my office made me want to scream, I especially read them. Sometimes I actually shook my head and shoulders in a side-to-side motion to imitate shaking it off. That was my technique for choosing happiness over bitterness for years. I began to grow through the years, and being happier became easier. I felt myself shift as I became a better person because of the positive energy I put into the world. I took it a step further in 2007. I made myself an I am statement poem. I'd never seen one, but I had the idea to do it. I wanted to take the bazillion sticky notes down, but I still wanted and needed a reminder of who I was and who I would become. Some of the things on my list were already true. Most were not. A few still aren't today, but I hold steadfast in my belief that they will all manifest in my lifetime. And I'm going to read to you the I am. I'm not a poet or a spoken word artist, but this is what I wrote in 2007. I am blessed. I am a believer. I have favor. I'm healthy. I'm pain-free. I am happy. I am resourceful. I am inspiring. I am talented. I am a sister, a daughter, an aunt, and friend. I am successful. I am unique. I go to bed with a smile on my face every night. I sleep well every night. I awake rejuvenated, motivated, and inspired to make every minute of every day count. I am surrounded by uplifting and loving people. I am toned, fit, and healthy. We working on that one. I am healthy. I'm just working on the toned and fit. I give love, show love, and receive love daily. I am giving, loving, caring, honest, and respectful. I exercise my mind and body every day. I am spiritually, financially and monetarily rich. I am a college graduate. I am the owner of a multi-million-dollar business. I am a world traveler. I am debt-free. I am a homeowner. I am happily, all caps, happily, married. I am saved. I am free. I am because he is. In the next section of the book, I go through and I break down, thank you, what each part of that meant. And it'll clarify what some of those things alluded to.
Time.
Time?
Mm-hmm.
I'm good on my time?
It's time.
Oh.
I like you ended it.
So that was chapter 5. Chapter 6 is entitled I Walk by Faith. And I'm just going to read this and I'll be done. It's like, I know I've done nothing to deserve God's mercy, love, or favor. Yet he does all of that and so much more. I commune with God daily. Even in the worst situation, I see God moving and working in my life and healing my life. Every day I am healing, being restored, and being elevated. I say healing intentionally because healing is an ongoing process. Throughout life, there will inevitably be new experiences. Some of those experiences called physical, emotional, or spiritual pain. Healing is always possible when you keep the faith. I have faith. So thank you so much for listening. I hope you all enjoyed the reading from Can These Bones Live Again? Walking Through the Eyes of the Broken. At this time, I would like for you to enjoy some food. Chef Vaughn Williams catered it. Yes, all of that. It's so delicious. So have some food, some cake, and some punch. And as I'm signing books, you guys network and talk and just enjoy yourself.
Yep. Guys, buy more than one book. Let me tell you why. Kim was going to give me a free book, a signed book. And because as soon as she announced, I said, I can't wait to have my signed copy. She said, I got you, brother. As soon as I got off the phone with her, I was convicted. Because how can I help her enlarge her territory by taking from it? And so we think, oh, I love you and we're friends, but we got to help each other grow. And so we have to take back everything that the enemy stole from us, aggressively pursue it,